Good evening, class. This is Mr. Dearbone, and we are going to talk about Chapter 15, Group and Team Communication. Now, over the past few weeks, we've talked about communication as far as speeches goes. We've also talked about communication as far as interpersonal, one-on-one communication. Now we're going to delve into a different type of communication. We're going to talk about group and communication, group and team communication. Chapter 16 is an offshoot of this, but we will focus in today on group and team communication for Chapter 15. So small group communication, making the connection. First of all, we have to look at what is a group. A group is generally anything that's 3 or more people is considered a group. Whether it's considered small group or large group is up to you. Usually something, 50 people, 100 people is considered a large group by many standards. It could be considered a small group depending on who you're talking to and what the situation is. But a group is 3 or more people. We'll look at formation and development of groups. How do groups form and why are they put together? And then we'll also look at cultural influences on group formation. So, formation and development of groups. First, groups help to satisfy important psychological and social needs. So groups are there to give us something. From birth, we're part of a group. Family, friends, school, classrooms, jobs, sororities, fraternities, athletic teams. We are part of groups from birth on. These help psychological need. We all need to feel like we're part of something. It satisfies that. It satisfies the social ability to talk to one another, to relate to one another, to have that social connection. Group membership helps people achieve goals that otherwise might not be accomplished. Think of building a house. Can one person build a house all by themselves? Lay the floor, the brick, measure things, paint. Can one person do that all by themselves? No. If they could, it would take years and years and years of painstaking work. But when you have a group of people, you can build a house pretty fast. So goals that otherwise you couldn't achieve on your own, you could achieve with the group. Group membership could provide multiple sources of information and knowledge that might not be available to one individual. We all have information that we know, but because of a group, we can learn more information. We can talk to somebody and find out things we didn't know because somebody else has expertise in another field or they have experience that we don't have. Groups can help meet the need for security. If you're in a situation where maybe somebody's trying to beat you up or you're in a situation where you need protection, a group can do that for you. Why do people go to war as a group? Because one person going to war probably won't make it out alive. But if you have a full group, an army, if you will, you're probably going to get out of there with your life as well as their lives. Group membership can also attribute to an individual's positive social identity. A lot of people, their self-esteem, their self-worth is based on the group they're in. Take, for example, a sports team. The quarterback of a football team. His social identity is a part of being the quarterback. If he's not the quarterback of the football team, he might just be a random guy. But because he's a part of that team, he is now somebody or something important. Tuckman's model of group development. We're going to look at how groups come together and for what purpose. First, you have forming. This is the initial stage where group members first meet. Think about your first day in class, the first time you meet for a sports practice. Maybe the first time when you get to college, if you're in a fraternity or sorority, the first time you meet, you form. If you're maybe in a music group or music class, choir, you form. You meet each other for the very first time. Then you storm. This is when important issues are tackled and differences and emotions about the issues are brought up. So maybe if you're in a singing group, this is when you define who is the drummer, who's the lead singer, what kind of music you're going to do, how your music's going to sound, who's going to be the leader of the group. This is when these things are figured out and ironed out. Maybe it's some yelling and screaming. Maybe this is some hard conversations to get to that point. Next, you have norming. This is when most of the differences have been worked out and the rules and norms are determined. So this is where, okay, now you've got everything figured out. So now you're ready to work. Then you have performing. This is when members work together as a group. So this is when, okay, now you're playing your music. You're doing what you're supposed to do. You're actually making it happen. And then finally, you have adjourning. This is when the group finishes the task and either moves on to the next or disbands. So now you guys have played your music, you've played your concert, whatever. Either you're going to move on to the next concert or you guys are going to break up. A lot of bands break up after doing their job for several years. Or you look at sports teams. The Chicago Cubs just won the World Series. They stormed, they figured out who's playing what position, how they're going to play it, what's their style going to be, what's their tempo. After that, they normed. Okay, we know what everybody's job is. We're ready to work. They performed. They went out on the field. They played baseball. They won a lot of games. Then, after the World Series, they adjourned. So now either that team is going to come back next season and they're going to play again for another World Series championship, or they're going to disband. Some people are going to leave, go to other teams, try to make money elsewhere. But one chapter is over with, and either another chapter will start up, or they'll just keep on going and do different things. So there's different purposes and types of groups. The first one is a primary group. This is a group that focuses on social and interpersonal relationships. Primary groups are family, friends. These are groups that don't have any expectations other than just to talk to somebody, have a social interaction with them. Secondary group is a group that exists to accomplish tasks or achieve goals. This could be considered a work group, a sports group, a sorority, a fraternity, an academic group, like a chess team or an academic team. You're put together with the goal of completing some sort of task. A project team. These are individuals representing different specialties who are assigned to coordinate the successful completion of an assigned task. Think of a basketball team. You have a point guard, a forward, a center, a small forward, and a shooting guard. So you have 5 different positions. You have 5 people who are have specialized in 5 different areas. The point guard knows how to handle the ball. The center is tall. They do a lot of blocking and dunking. The shooting guard shoots a lot. The forwards, they're on the sides. They're big and tall, but they know how to shoot certain types of shots, or they sit on certain parts of the court. They come together with their 5 different specialties in order to make a game happen, in order to win, in order to play ball. A work team is a group of people responsible for an entire work process or segment of the process that delivers a product or service to an internal or external customer. Think of factory workers. They are a work team because they all work together in order to create a product. Whether it's the GM plant, where each one has a different job, a specific job that they do in order to make the work happen, they are considered a work team. And social media groups are changing the way we work in groups. Now you could be a part of a group and not even have to be there. A social media group like on Facebook, there are groups you can join of people who have similar interests or similar things that they've done. If you're a runner, if you're a singer or a dancer, you could be a part of a group on Facebook or on other means of social media in order to be able to be around them and not have to be anywhere near them. So if you look on the PowerPoint, you have several different pictures of possible groups. The Miami Heat, the cast of Friends, looks like a business group, and a group of what looks to be factory workers. These are all the different types of groups. Now, some of them might fall into multiple categories. For example, the actors on Friends. They are considered a secondary group because their goal is to act and work. They could also be considered a project team because they each have different types of skills that they bring to the table. They might also be considered a primary group if they really are friends, if they really do like each other and enjoy each other. Same with the basketball team as well as the other two. So look at those and see if you can determine which ones they are, if they're in multiple ones or if they're in single ones. So in order to have a group, you have to establish a group culture. The first group culture refers to the pattern of beliefs, values, norms, and behaviors that is shared by group members and that shapes a group's individual personality. If you look at politics, Democrats and Republicans, Republicans have a core set of values and beliefs and behaviors that they all share that make them Republicans. Same with Democrats. They have a certain set of beliefs and core values that they believe in, that they adhere to, that make them just that group. Group size refers to the number of participants, depending on whether it's 5 or 105. Group culture and group size depends on the number of participants. And group norms are expected and shared in ways, or group norms are expected and shared ways in which group members behave. If you're in a group, you're expected to behave a certain way. Maybe if you're in a singing group, you're expected to behave a certain way. If you're in choir, you're expected to behave a certain way. If you're on a sports team, a football team or a basketball team, you're expected to behave a certain way. There are certain norms that are expected of you. If you play basketball, you're expected to wear a basketball jersey that has your number and name on it. That's an expectation. That's a norm because you are a part of that group. If you're playing basketball on a varsity team, you're not going to come wearing your own clothes to a game. That's not a norm. The norm is that you wear the uniform provided to you because you are part of that group. There's different characteristics of small groups. You have interdependence. Group members are dependent on each other. Every member of a group is dependent on the other members of the group in order to be successful. That leads to commitment. If you're going to be a part of a group, you have to commit to being a part of that group. You can't be in and out. If you're a part of a group, you're a part of a group. That commitment leads to cohesiveness. If you agree, I'm in this group, I'm going to work and be a part of this group or stay committed to it, hopefully you and your group members will form a cohesive unit where you guys work together. You're passionate about what you're doing. You guys find a way to make it work. And then cohesion can be dependent on gender makeup. Some groups are all guys, all girls, mixed gender. And depending on how it's made up, depends on the success of the group. Some groups that are all male work well together. Some all male groups don't work well together, whereas a mixed gender group works well together. Or maybe it doesn't work well together. It just depends on that makeup of the group. So overcoming disadvantages of working in small groups, going along to get along. A lot of times if you're in a group, you may have an opinion that is different than your fellow group members. But rather than start an argument, rather than get into a fight about it, you go along to get along. You don't bring it up. You just go with what everybody else says. A lot of times we see that in presidential elections. If you're a Republican or a Democrat, it's not okay to agree with the other side. So rather than say, you know, they actually got a good idea, I actually like their idea, you just go along with it. No, I don't like them. They're terrible. I don't believe in them. I won't vote for them. So when you do going along to get along, it pressures you to be uniform. Your uniqueness goes away to a large degree because you are told to be just like the others in the group, to be just like the uniformity, the conventional person in the group. Leads to closed-mindedness. You and your group members are not open to new ideas or different ideas. It overestimates the group's power and morality. All of a sudden, if you are going along to get along, the group automatically thinks they're more powerful than they are because no one is challenging them. No one is saying, you know, hey, maybe let's try to do something different. They don't feel like the group is being a threat to them, which leads to groupthink. Groupthink means harmony is more important than new ideas. More people would rather get along and keep doing the same thing they've been doing rather than coming up with new ideas that might harm the balance of the group. Rather than rocking the boat, they'd much rather let the boat sail on, even if it's going in the wrong direction, because it's easier that way. Other disadvantages: the time-consuming nature of group work. If you're doing an assignment by yourself, you might be able to knock it out in a day. Whereas if it's a group project, now you have to do several days because you have to all get together in a group. You have to find time to talk to each other. You have to wait on each person to do their part of the project, and then put it together. Whereas if you do it by yourself, you can get it done real fast and real quick. Group work takes more time. Varying interaction. In most groups, it's not possible for all group members to take part. If you've got 15 people in a group, maybe only 10 people will actually get to participate. The other 5 don't. So somebody is missing out. Unfair workloads. Social loafing. The tendency for individuals to lower their work effort may occur. Because there's 15 people in the group, maybe 5 figure out, well, you know what? The other 10 will pick up my slack. I really don't have to work that hard. I'll do a couple things here and there. I may or may show up to a meeting or two, but overall, the other 10 will get it done. So now you've got 10 people that are working extra hard because 5 other people don't feel like they need to work hard at all. The pressure to fail. Group members just want to get it done and not excel. So in a group, rather than going for an A+ assignment, you guys would just rather do a C because it's like it's easier. If I do a little bit, they do a little bit, we can get a C and call it done. Rather than if you're on your own and you know that if you don't work hard, you're not going to get an A or a C because you're not working up to your potential. And then you have group hate phenomenon. This is a dislike for groups. This is when people tend to turn on a group. For example, fraternities and sororities. People tend to not like those groups because they feel like those groups, all they do is hang around each other. They take care of each other. Sometimes group hate can be internal. Maybe you begin to start hating groups because you feel that you lose who you are. You lose your identity. You're made to do things you don't want to do. You're uncomfortable with the direction of the group. That is chapter 15. That is group and team communication. Chapter 16, we will look at more group communication. So good night, and I hope to see you and talk to you guys soon.